If you're running Google Ads and you've watched your CPA creep up week after week, you aren't just losing profit, you're actively paying a penalty. Here's the thing, Google doesn't sell clicks just to the highest bidder. It actually sells them to the most relevant bidder. So if your costs are rising, it's rarely solely because of the market. It's because you're failing at what we call the ad rank formula. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to diagnose the bleed by breaking down the only 3 metrics that actually matter. And I'm going to give you a step-by-step fix for each metric so that you can lower your CPAs without lowering your budget. For the past 5 years, I've used this exact diagnostic process to help 7- and 8-figure brands to scale profitably and stop wasting their ad spend. So let's get into it. So your CPA is up on search. You're reviewing your account on a Monday morning. So search or shopping, let's say. So what are you going to do? So quite often people are going to panic. They're going to pull back budgets. They're going to say, okay, well, if my CPA is this high, I can't afford to spend. I need to pull back my budget from $100 a day to $50 a day. That is not the first thing you should be doing. I understand if you're losing money hand over fist, you need to start peeling back budgets, correct? But you need to understand the root of the problem, because just because you're pulling back spend doesn't mean you're actually fixing the problem. If anything, you're just masking over it. So what I like to do is break down what CPA actually means. So your cost per action. So in this instance, we're going to say it's a purchase. Okay, so we're an e-commerce store and it's our cost per purchase. So our cost per purchase is dependent on our cost per click divided by our conversion rate. So an example of that is our cost per click is on average $1 and our conversion rate is 4%. So that's 0.04. That's going to give us a $25 CPA. Now, if we increase this figure to $2, or if we decrease our conversion rate to 2%, well, then what we're going to do is double this figure here of $25 CPA, and that's going to jump up to a $50 CPA. So you can see here that we need to focus on these 2 figures, and then this figure here will take care of itself. So what do we need to do? We need to either decrease our cost per click, or we need to increase our conversion rate. And ideally, we'd like to do both, because if we can do both, well, then we're going to have a much more profound effect on this figure here, our cost per action. So in order to kind of get to the crux of that, I want to start with something called ad rank in Google. So ad rank is a set of values from Google to determine if and where your ad will show. So there's a number of things that actually affect ad rank. So some of them down here, ad rank thresholds. You have to meet a certain threshold to actually be eligible to partake in an auction. The competitiveness of the auction. So naturally, if there's more of your competition entering that same space, it's a very highly competitive keyword. Well, then it's going to cost you that bit more. The search context is important. So essentially what Google is trying to do is match the user's behavior, where they're searching from, what they're searching for, to your campaign or your ad to make sure that contextually it matches up. But for the most part, I want to talk about your bid and your ad quality, because to me, these have the 2 most profound effects on ad rank, and ad rank determines if and where you serve on Google. So your bid and your ad quality. So generally speaking, there are 2 options to improve your ad rank. So you can either focus on your bid by paying more, but essentially we know that that's just going to cause us to burn through cash. So instead, what we're going to do is focus on ad quality. So ad quality is measured in Google by improving quality score. So if we want to improve quality, we need to focus on something called quality score. And quality score is essentially a grading system given to each of your keywords by Google to let you know how your ad quality is deemed across some certain different metrics. So we'll get into each of them right now. So the 3 metrics that underpin quality score are your landing page experience, your ad relevance, and your expected click-through rate. So there is no hard and fast rule of what percentage each makes up, but generally speaking, what I found from speaking to other advertisers, what I found myself has the most profound impact is improving either landing page experience or expected click-through rate, and then to a lesser degree ad relevance. Now they're all quite important. I just find that there's slightly more weight placed on this guy, landing page experience, and this guy over here, expected click-through rate. So how do we view it? So the quality score is determined at the keyword level. So what we do is we're going to go into one of our search campaigns, and then we're going to go through into an ad group. And once we're inside in the ad group, we're going to see our different keywords. We're going to see performance by keywords. What we're going to need to do is go into our columns and go down here to quality score. So within quality score, then we'll be able to actually pull up the total quality score and then the 3 underlying metrics. So expected click-through rate, landing page experience, and then ad relevance. And now you can see these have been added to our columns here. So you can see our quality scores here are ranging from 5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. And we can see we get a grade of either above average, average, or below average for each of expected click-through rate, landing page experience, and ad relevance. This is really useful for us because it's Google telling us what parts of our quality score we can improve to bring up that total quality score number and actually improve our ad rank. And we know that if we can improve our ad rank, we will get cheaper CPCs. Okay, so back to the mirror board, here we are. And as I said, if you pull that up at your keyword level, you'll be able to see where our work-ons are. So we know if we want to improve our quality score, ideally we're working towards a 10 out of 10, meaning that we're going to be above average across all metrics. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to break it down by each individual component. So I'm going to start with ad relevance. So if you have an average or below average score when it comes to ad relevance, the cause of that is the semantic difference between the search query and the ad itself being too grand or too big. So what do I mean by semantic difference? It's like essentially the search query is not closely enough related to the ad. So if someone is searching for Nike trail running shoes size 11 and you're showing them marathon shoes in size 9, well then there's the semantic difference is relatively large there because the sizing is off, the type of shoe is off. So it's quite a big difference. Google deems you as having an ad that isn't relevant to the user. You have to understand that Google wants to create ads that are relevant because it's all part of giving the end user a positive browsing experience. So not just a positive experience with organic listings and making sure they're really relevant, but if Google starts to show ads that aren't relevant to users, well then those users are going to go elsewhere for their search engines. So it's really important that Google is giving relevant ads the credit they deserve because ultimately it feeds into Google's bigger goal of creating a really relevant ecosystem for its users. So what do we actually need to do then if we're seeing an ad relevance that's either average or below average? These are some tips. The first thing is implement single theme asset groups or ad groups. So if it's a search campaign, it's ad groups. If it's PMAX campaign, it's asset groups. But basically what we want to do is we want to have a series of keywords. I generally say 5 to 8 tops. Any more than that, I feel like I can't get keywords that are closely enough related, because you have to bear in mind that someone searching for one of your keywords and someone else searching for another one of your keywords will be shown the same ad. So if someone's searching for a keyword related to Nike trail shoes and someone's searching for a keyword related to Nike marathon shoes, it's very difficult for you to put an ad together that speaks really well to both of those individuals, because a marathon shoe might need, more cushioning, more shock absorption. A trail running shoe might need more ankle stability. It's a completely different shoe. So having one ad that speaks to both of those people is going to be very difficult. So instead, what you need to do is have a theme for each ad group. So a theme might be marathon running shoes. Another theme or another ad group might be trail running shoes. So look at how well you can split out your themes and then look at your ad. So take your keyword, and if you've got 5 or 6 keywords, take each individual keyword and say, okay, if someone was searching for this keyword and they saw my ad that I have written for this ad group, is that relevant? And if the answer is no, or you're not sure, well then it doesn't belong in that ad group. It needs to be moved out into its own ad group. If the answer is yes, I think it's super relevant, then that's fine. What I say, as I said, look, do not mix broad intent, so something very general with something very specific, because once again, it's the same principle. It's very hard to write an ad that appeals to the masses while simultaneously appealing to a really specific cohort of individuals. So try not to mix very broad terms like running shoes, very generic terms, with very specific terms like I have here, red trail running shoe size 10 US, very specific in comparison to running shoes. The next thing is add dynamic keywords to your ad copy. And what these do is essentially the keyword that gets flagged or triggered to serve your ad for actually gets spun back out in your ad copy. So you can say, for example, if your keyword is marathon shoes, then you can have your headline perhaps say buy and then dynamic keyword marathon shoes, but also it makes it relevant to whatever keyword was triggered. So ideally all our keywords should be really closely related, but dynamic keywords are one extra step to making sure that if there is a slight difference between our keywords, that when possible, our keyword that's most relevant to the ad gets actually sewn back into the ad copy itself. And then the last thing that I do, and this is more kind of a hygiene basis, and you should do this all the time regardless, is you should be auditing your search terms. So what queries are actually triggering our ads to serve? So if there's lots of terms with lots of different meanings across a broad spectrum of queries, of products, of things like that, then we need to consider where these terms are coming from. Is there one keyword or two keyword that's bringing in a lot of this dud traffic that's very distinct, very different to the rest of the traffic in this ad group? And if so, then we need to consider splitting that out into its own ad group if it is relevant. If it's not relevant traffic at all, then we just need to maybe get rid of that keyword. But you need to be looking all the time at your search terms to make sure that not only are your keywords closely related, but the terms that are triggering your ads to show are also pretty closely related as well. So that's how you bump up ad relevance. I know I said it's maybe perhaps the least important, but it's one of the quickest to fix. You really should be making the effort to do so, because bumping that up will just help bring up your overall quality score. The next thing is your expected click-through rate. So if it is average or below average score, particularly below average score, Google predicts your ad will get fewer clicks than competitors in the same position. So if you were to serve an ad, or your competitor was to serve an ad, Google would predict that you have a below average chance of getting a click relative to your competitors in that auction. And you don't want that to happen. If Google is expecting you to get less clicks, well, then it deems your ad to be less relevant, less high quality, and you're going to get penalized as well. So what are we going to do to improve our expected click-through rate? One thing that we can do, it's almost very primitive, is we can add more relevant site links, more callouts, add extensions. What ad extensions are, they're very like what the name suggests, is that they are little snippets of information that you add to your ad. And the basis of it is that it should give the end user more information as to why they might click on your ad. Your site links can bring them into different locations. Your callouts highlight maybe some USPs or some interesting kind of offers you might have. But the primitive side of it is that it just takes up more digital real estate. It takes longer to scroll past an ad if it has 4 or 5 site links, if it has 2 or 3 lines worth of description and call outs and everything like that, it actually increases the probability of clicking through. So that's one very simple thing you can do. The next thing that you should be doing, and this is part of your auditing of your search terms, is if you have a high volume of impressions but low click terms. So you can set up a filter for, okay, impressions over 100 or over 1000 and click-through rate less than 0.5% or 0.4% or something very, very low, and you can obviously increase or decrease those filters. But look for terms that are getting you a lot of impressions but not a lot of clicks. Now, is there a reason that those terms are getting very few clicks? Is it that they're not relevant to what it is you're trying to say in your ads, or you don't have a compelling enough offer for that particular term? Whatever it is, quite often it's the former. It's that it's not actually too relevant, that traffic, in which case you need to add negative keywords to prevent that traffic serving. Because if you have these terms that are consistently flagging your ads to serve, and then users are consistently skipping over them and not clicking on them, well, that's going to hurt your actual click-through rate. And your actual click-through rate is one of the biggest indicators for Google of what your expected click-through rate is, because basically it's Google looking back and going, well, historically this ad hasn't performed very well, so in the future I also anticipate that it won't perform very, very well. So that's another thing that I would do, is review your search terms and look for those high volume impressions, low click terms that are hurting your expected click-through rate. The next thing then is more deeper, it's more general, it's more kind of understanding around the actual market itself. So what you need to do is you need to look at what your competitors are saying for these terms, what their ads are. So basically just go onto Google and search your keywords in and see about your competitors who come up. What are they offering? What is their ad copy? What's their angle? What's their USP? What's their shipping threshold? What are they saying in their ad that could have a more compelling argument for someone to click on their ad as opposed to yours? If there is anything at all that you feel like you could highlight to stand out from competitors, to make your offer more compelling, well, then you need to be including that in your ads, because that will increase your expected click-through rate and your actual click-through rate. So reviewing your ad copy, your offers compared with competitors. That's really important because you need to give people a reason to click. It's all well and good, these tips and tricks about, taking up more digital real estate and making it more difficult for your ad to be passed by. But ultimately, you need to get to the crux of the issue, which is there's an offer issue, or there's a value prop that isn't being conveyed well enough, or you're just not positioning yourself in a way or a light that it favors your brand versus your competitors. So that's fundamental to improving your expected click-through rate. And the last thing then is your landing page experience. So once again, if it's average or below average score, you have generally got one of a few things. You have a really high bounce rate on site, you've slow load times, or lack of semantic continuity from the search query to your ad to your landing page. So that's very similar to ad relevance, only you're extending it one place further and bringing it to landing page. So basically what you need to do here is look for some kind of fundamental issues. So to do with kind of page load speed. So if your page is not loading quickly at all, then people are going to bounce before they even get on. So you need to identify that being an issue first. Page speed insights is a really good place to do that. It can give you some quick feedback on what's causing a very low or a very prolonged load speed. But then the next thing that you're going to need to do is look at the content continuity. Basically, is there clear continuity between, as I said, your search query, your ad, and your landing page? So if a user is searching for trail running shoes and my ad says trail running shoes and they get sent to a collection page of marathon shoes, well, then that is not going to work. That is going to be a really poor landing page experience because it's not going to match, I suppose, what the promise was made in the ad, and it's just not relevant to their search query. So either they're going to bounce from that page, they're going to bounce straight off site, or they're going to go somewhere else, but they're not going to have a really positive experience. Their chance of conversion is lower. So not only are you impacting your quality score, you're also impacting your conversion rate, your likely conversion rate. So you need to have a clear continuity all the way across that funnel. So sometimes it's as simple as just changing the H1 on your product page to make it more closely aligned with the theme of your ad group. That can have a really good impact, and it's very it's actually very low impact for you as either the Google Ads team or the CMO or the brand owner. That's something that you can do, or you can just make sure that you're sending people to the most relevant page on your site. The next thing then is review your offer on page. This could be a cause for bounce. So if your offer in your ad copy isn't very strong compared to your competitors, then you won't get the clicks. But if your offer on your landing page is weak, well, then people won't convert and they'll bounce. So if you want to dig a little deeper into where people are bouncing, what actions they're taking on your landing pages on your site, then something like Hotjar or Microsoft Clarity is good for heat mapping to give you a little bit of insight into what's going on. But before you do all that, definitely just make sure your web vitals are okay. Also make sure you have good continuity, and that just the general kind of parts of your offer are solid, and you're giving people something that would make them want to convert. So just if you don't have a solid conversion rate on organic traffic, don't expect all of a sudden for that conversion rate to be really solid on Google or Facebook traffic, paid traffic in general. So review your offer, but then of course, if you do want to go a little deeper, look at heat mapping, as I said, Hotjar or Microsoft Clarity. So the first thing that we have to do is understand that CPA is essentially a factor of our cost per click and our conversion rate. And we know that if we want to decrease our CPA, which ultimately will increase ROAS, is by decreasing our CPC, our cost per click, or increasing our conversion rate. Now, I've gone through quality score and I have discussed how improving quality score basically means that you don't have to worry half as much about your bid. So if we can increase ad quality by improving quality score, then we don't have to pay more. And not just we don't have to pay more, we actually get rewarded with cheaper clicks. So if we can improve our quality score, right, we're going to get cheaper clicks, but we're also going to have a landing page experience that's better for people. We're going to have ad relevance that's better for people. We're going to have an expected click-through rate that's higher than our competitors, which is going to feed back into having really high quality ads as deemed by Google, which is going to feed back into our quality score, which is going to make our clicks cheaper. What we're doing here by increasing quality score is lowering our bid required, so lowering our CPC. But also what we're inadvertently doing is we're making sure our funnel is squeaky clean and it's going to be high converting. So we're actually going to be increasing our conversion rate too. So not only are we looking at improving quality score to decrease our cost per click, we're also looking at improving quality score to increase our conversion rate. And if we can do both of those things, well, then what we're going to have is a profound impact in a positive light when it comes to our cost per action or a cost per purchase in Google. Now, understanding the ad rank formula is absolutely crucial in Google, but actually finding the time to implement it is another thing entirely. Rewriting ad copy to fix ad relevance or fixing landing page experience to boost your quality score, these things take time, but these are the exact things that we help D2C brands with. So if you want a team that can take this completely off your plate so you can stop troubleshooting and start growing again, well then click the link below and book a free consultation with me today. We'll look at your complete account setup, identify where you're paying that low quality tax, and map out a plan that can help you reduce your CPAs. And once you've booked that call, check out this video where I show you the new way to run Google Ads in 2026.